Joey?
Hey, Bob, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sorry. There's some reason that was muted there. Okay.
I was,
So
yeah.
sorry, guys. Okay, we're going to go back just for a quick second. Just to let you know that these recordings, this webinar is recorded. So feel free to also join our session at 2 p.m. if any of your members of your team were not able to join. It's an identical session. And just a reminder that you can get your hardware from TPG Phoenix Group, POS Portal, and POS Data. These webinars are also focused around new programs and new advances on Poynt. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about. And if you need additional training for your team, we're going to go over some of the training guides and some of the new Poynt decks that are kind of for the merchants. But ultimately, what we want to do is make sure that you guys have the availability to, or the resources, I should say, to sell to merchants and be able to do live demos remotely. So we're building as many resources as we possibly can to make you guys effective remotely. But of course, it always helps to have a terminal out in the field. So feel free to reach out to these companies if you guys need demo devices or if you need more hardware. And then one quick reminder was that the 24/7 premium support, this SMS number, make sure you have that saved and for your merchants, if they're already boarded, they're able to get started and they're able to get immediate 24/7 support through Boomtown. And those all white labeled. We know who your merchant is. We know it's coming from you, so we don't say Boomtown. We basically say Poynt support, and then we can reference your group if needed. So sorry, going back to this, we are going to talk about Poynt Capital today. This is one of the big things that we wanted to talk about, and one of the programs that's been very successful for a lot of other groups. A lot of resellers always ask me, how do you compete with Square, right? And whatever you think of Square, they're a very successful company, and they have a lot of versatile options. And the reason they're successful is they have programs like their capital program, where they can see the processing, and they are able to really quickly identify how much of a loan these merchants are pre-approved for. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of some options for you guys. Poynt is not, I understand some of you have capital programs. Poynt's not competing with you. They're just providing more, features and more services on their platform to give you the ability to obviously make more commissions, drive more revenue with your customers. And I think that because we can see the processing and, make it really easy for these merchants to apply for loans, it's pretty awesome because again, there's really no friction in the process. It's really easy to get signed up. So I'm going to pass it over to Bob, and Bob, I'm going to make you the presenter.
Okay.
And let me know if you have any trouble presenting.
Yeah, just pass it over.
Let me see. It says you are the presenter. Are you able to present?
I don't know. Can you see my slides? It doesn't seem to be coming
yet.
up. Oh,
okay, let me go back to myself and then I'll pass it back to you. All right, there we go. Yep,
okay.
You're good. I can see it now.
All right. Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing up on this screen. All right. Okay, so it's gonna, let's see. It's showing my notes, but that's all right. What we want to talk to you about is Poynt Capital. We're working on a new program to usher in what we think is a new era of funding. We've certainly seen that in the competitive frame, there's quite an interest in terms of providing additional capital to the S&B based merchants, which were largely neglected after 2008, when a lot of the capital loan products shut down and a lot of the banks walked away from servicing the S&B based clients. And I'm sure you've all seen companies like Square and Cabbage, et cetera, starting to go after this type of market. So we started one of the things that we've always talked about is offering a platform with applications and service that will help generate new revenues and also keep retain clients beyond just a payment relationship. And we believe that this Poynt Capital one actually creates a lot of stickiness towards the Poynt platform and is probably going to substantially reduce churn of your clients, to other products and services, and we're seeing some favorable results. So we started a small pilot to begin to work out some of the back office logistics, in terms of underwriting and credit evaluation and delivering a very seamless type of program. And it's been quite a amount of extensive work, and we're now getting to the point where we're about ready to go beyond the pilot. So that's why we wanted to talk to you about that. You may recall, we've shown you, I think, this slide before, that, we're certainly, our core value and stakes, are certainly our hardware, the ability to accept any method of payment, and to integrate with many different types of other devices, to make sure that we're in compliance with, local standards, not only here in the US, but other places in the world. But we really feel that the app marketplace is something that's, Joey's spending a lot more time talking about, and we're starting to add additional services, etc. We'll talk to you about Poynt Capital coming down the road. We'll be talking about, some loyalty-based programs and other funding-based programs moving forward. Surcharging will be a program that we'll be launching shortly as well. So we're constantly trying to bring in new services that take you beyond payments. So what we've come up with is let's see, hold on. Seems my mouse is stuck here.
Bob, if there's a hide presenter view, that's one way you can do this, or just go out of it and basically just have it so you can have the slides. It might make it bigger. I think you're in a presenter mode right now.
Yeah.
So go to end show, and then you can basically just present from the slides.
Yeah.
Top left, there's the end show.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and then go back up to basically, let me see.
Hold on,
and then just go open that. Yep, open that again.
Yeah. Well, I think I can solve it this way. Hold on.
Yep. I think it'll just be easier for people to see if they do it the larger.
I know it's I have two screens here. Oh, maybe if I take out one screen. Sorry.
No worries. Do you have a dual screen setup? If you can just do it, this might be better just to hold it in this view. That's okay. There you go. Perfect. That's it.
All right. So we've gone and we've introduced we're introducing three flavors of this program, and the two other flavors are going to be limited, and Joey will talk to you about how we're going to introduce these other two groups. We're going to certainly work with a lot of you on this, but you have to be a Poynt reseller in good standing. So first of all is the Poynt Capital one-click program, which we've already implemented, and been working on perfecting. And basically, this one is a pre-approved offer. What we're doing, and I'll explain in a little more detail, is we're able to look at what the merchant is doing, and based upon the information that the merchant is processing through the Poynt platform, we're able to evaluate whether run it through an algorithm and do some credit evaluation and give them a pre-approved offer for merchant cash advance, which is not a loan per se, but it's a one-click type of program. It does require accurate information. It has to be a active Poynt merchant, and it has to be a Poynt reseller in good standing.
So guys, real quickly, Poynt reseller in good standing just means that you're paying your bills with Boomtown ultimately, and then also that you're doing more than 5 a month. Basically Poynt terminals, because we see that as strategic. If you're not doing more than 5 a month, we're still happy to look at the program with you. But ultimately right here, the one-click program is the most seamless. It's the ability for your merchant just to, already pre-approved. You can, it's for your Poynt merchants. And then as Bob is showing you, a few other kind of frameworks, there's the ability to also utilize Poynt Capital for other merchants if you don't already have a capital program with your ISO bank or the group that you're working with.
Yeah, that'll be the Poynt Capital Agent No Hassle program, which I'll show you a little bit more. And then eventually we'll be doing a Poynt Capital Agent full service program. And, that's where you'll be collecting some of the information working on it. So the Poynt Capital one-click program is a unique program that is exclusive to Poynt merchants only. It's offered via Merchant HQ with some supplemental Poynt emails going out to tell them that the program is now being offered. It's a time-bound based program. It's only offered for, a certain period of time, normally about 3 weeks, and then it goes away for that merchant. Requirements. If data is missing, and then if you want to participate and support this program, then we'd like to be able to go back to you to help us get some additional information to complete that transaction. We normally target only, merchants that have card transaction sales over $25,000 a month or more, and they must be a Poynt merchant for at least 4 months. We will not go after any high-risk MCC codes. We are limiting to most MCC codes, but there are certain high-risk ones that we stay away from. The merchants will immediately upon getting an offer agree to terms, they provide merchant banking processing upon acceptance of the terms, and they normally get funded within 24 hours of accepting. And then they do a repayment based upon their card sales. So we have 2 flavors here. They can accept the offer for, let's say this one was offered $8,000. They can accept immediately for $8,000. I'm just taking, so they would receive some sort of invite like this. Don't wait. They have 10 days. It's going to expire. If they accept the offer, just like this, they'll get, well, here's the funding amount. Here's how much you're going to have to repay, and we're going to take 10% out of your card processing. They accept that. Congratulations, they're pretty much done. They log into their bank account, which is their processing bank account, and bang, it's done. And they have a statement that's shown right in their Merchant HQ, which shows them when their next payments due, etc. It's a fully embedded based program. It's very seamless, and we're getting a terrific response rate from this particular program, and it's pretty exciting for us. There's another flavor of it where actually they can actually customize their offer. So by sliding these scales around, they can change, and instead of wanting $10,000, they could reduce it down to $8,000. They can change the funding terms, etc. And this automatically adjusts itself. So it's really dynamic, and we just started testing this particular creative, and we've seen a lot of terrific results from there, where merchants don't necessarily want the full amount of the funding. So it's really a one-click. We've spent a lot of time trying to make it as easy and simple as possible with very little friction. Sometimes we run into a situation where we're obviously doing some background checks where the name on the account doesn't quite agree with the legal information, and we have to go back and sometimes can reconnect with the merchant to get that information if they want to get the funding. We see there's a potential role for some of you to play in this to help us get that information. You might already have that on hand to complete it, so that we could easily provide the funding to the merchant. So the
Guys,
second,
this is the easiest process. Real quickly, the one that we just talked about right here. So this is the easiest because it's basically your existing Poynt merchants. You can sign up with Bob and Poynt directly to get commission and paid out for your merchants that get approved and your merchants that actually have these loans available to them. So this is a really great opportunity to make more revenue and make it really, again, the biggest thing here is no friction, really seamless for your merchant. You don't have to bring up a whole new capital program. They're already using the Poynt terminal. We already know how much they're pre-approved for. Again, this is what Square does. This is what a lot of other payment organizations do in today's world, and they're doing extremely well with it. again, because they don't have to have the merchant apply. They don't have to go through all this hassle of having to fill out all this information and put it. It makes the merchant feel a little bit more, safe than having to go through another application and have to do all this credit check, everything like that. So this is pretty great. This is number one, Poynt Capital, one click. This is definitely something that I think everybody should take advantage of if you have a good portfolio of Poynt merchants. And then you can reach out to us if you aren't doing much Poynt, and we can also help you obviously accelerate those sales. And then as Bob brings up the other options, again, these are just more options that if you don't already have a capital program with your existing group, there's the ability to do capital outside of just your Poynt merchants.
Yeah, the first program really, requires very little of your commitment. I think the one most important thing that it does require is that you accurately put in the information into the Poynt platform, because if you don't, it's going to be a little bit more of a hassle for your merchants. And also to help, at any time that we see some, information that doesn't seem to be correct. So that's that program. Next program is one that, we're about ready to launch. We're working on some of the final parts, and this one is an opportunity for you to send out emails to your constituents or to market to them. And we'll give you some of the collateral. The collateral can be branded for you. We would prefer right now at the moment that you would do it with Poynt customers, but there's a opportunity for you to do this also for a customer that's not a Poynt customer. We've seen a lot in our research that this is really a good way to bring a customer into a Poynt-based platform by being able to offer this. And in this case, what you do is basically send out this creative, and they do have to fill out a form because we don't have any past processing history on them. They will have to supply some information to us. We'll quickly do the evaluation and determine what type of loan or structure that we can give to them. This is you guys have some of you have big portfolios. This is a really fast way for you to get into the marketplace and offer a Poynt Capital program. This would be a merchant cash advance program, and eventually we'll be getting into a lending-based program on this. So again, it's really not much hassle for you. You send it out. We give you a landing page. They come in, fill out the information. We'll let you know what's going on, and then we'll communicate to the merchant and tell them what they're eligible for, but you'll be involved in the process. So this is more kind of an outreach. There's another program, which I didn't add in here, which is a full service based program. We've seen that a lot of resellers want to actually collect the information on behalf of the merchant, and in this particular case, they'll actually collect it all, fill it out, send it through an administrative portal that we'll give them, and then we'll evaluate it. We'll tell you what we're willing to lend them, and then you can decide either you can go and tell the merchant, or we'll send out a link. They still have to sign some terms and conditions, and immediately they'll be funded. And in each one of these cases, they are commission-based programs, which I'm happy to go over what the commission structure is separately with you.
Yeah, Bob, do you have any kind of structure? Do you have any examples of what the commission structure would be like for the groups? I think that's obviously a prime question for a lot of these resellers.
I'm prepared to share that separately, Joey, but not in this general.
Okay, got it. So there obviously are opportunities with the different programs to make a cut on all of this, of course, and depending on the program of how involved you are, there's a larger cut. So in the case that you're doing email campaigns, you're opening up to all your merchants rather than just a few, you'll get a larger cut. And if you're being more strategic about it, you'll get a larger cut as well. So that's kind of the idea here. I saw the numbers. It's pretty valuable. I think the average merchant of Poynt is basically pre-approved for about 20 to 25,000. So I think there's a lot of merchants that will be obviously lower than that, depending on, how much they're processing, but just showing you that because of the smart terminal, it's typically a little bit larger of an SMB. It's probably someone who's processing between 20 to 50K a month, and that's that's what we're seeing across the board as a majority of the customers. So obviously a great way to make money there, and reach out to Bob for the commission structure, and we can give you more information on all of this and how to get started.
On the full service one where the reseller normally collects the information, you can be really targeted in that, and we've seen average loans or average merchant cash advances go up to 35,000 easily, or larger. So you can be kind of strategic in what accounts you want to handle and manage in that way. So it's purely up to you.
Bob, thanks so much for joining in the overview. I know that a lot of groups are having questions about that. I put Bob's email here, bob@poynt.co. That's pretty straightforward for you guys. And then Vinny's also, that you guys have met before, who's listening in, is also the GM of North America, is also helping Bob with this program. But they'll help you run this directly with Poynt and help you reach out to your customers. Of course, Boomtown will be advocates and available to help as we move this forward. But basically, also, guys, we'll send out a copy of this deck. We'll make sure that you all have the recording as well. I'll probably record the afternoon. We had an audio issue in the beginning, so I'll record the afternoon and make sure that everybody has, again, the deck and the recording. Bob, thanks so much for joining. We're gonna move forward. Just let everybody know that I have a new Poynt sales deck and a merchant demo deck. Kind of a preview of the Poynt sales deck. This is all on our sales hub, our link here. But basically, the new sales training deck just goes over a little bit more about the, obviously, hardware, Poynt HQ, software. I'm going to go through it kind of fast, but, an overview so you can also train your team. I do a training every week. You can always basically join and register for one of my trainings or have an agent join to ask questions. But again, this training is going to be a little bit more versatile on what's the online, access that the merchant has, what is the offline capabilities through their mobile device and through the actual terminal, and then a little bit more on the software bundles that are new and that we've been going through in the last few webinars. This is all going to be in the deck. I'm continuing to add some of the new premium features in here, but as you guys see, invoicing, virtual terminal, loyalty, I'll be adding recurring payments, and then we also have a lot of the third-party apps in here, a little bit more of a showcase on the third-party apps. So, kind of by vertical and, which ones are obviously very popular and which ones are helping, obviously, a lot of our more relevant, because they're helping a lot of our resellers, obviously turn a lot of business and obviously, create a lot of great sales. So I'll make sure that you guys get a copy of this, and then, this will all be in our sales hub by tonight, and you'll get a copy of this deck either way. But right now, I want to pass it over to John at Adszy. Again, this is a great program that really helps with online to offline marketing. And it's the first program I've seen on Poynt that's actually very useful in, allowing your customers to do campaigns through social media and actually track how many of those customers actually bought something or came back into your store, how many times they came into your store, all this wonderful stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to John. John, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great, John. I'm going to make you the presenter. Just give me 1 second, and then just let me know if you have any trouble, but I'll let you know if we see your screen in just a second.
Oh, okay.
All right, great. I do see your screen. You are good to go. And if you can just,
all right.
yep.
I'm gonna start with kind of the deck here. So if I make it full screen, can everybody see that?
Yep, we're just I'm second behind, I think, but yeah, absolutely, it is full screen now.
Oh, okay, perfect. So I know everybody on the call is probably eager to get out and sell, so I'm going to kind of dive in right away. And basically, I always like to talk about with Adszy the problem that we're actually solving with the product. And kind of the best way to do that is to use an analogy to compare brick and mortar retailers to like e-commerce businesses. So e-commerce businesses, in order for them to acquire customers, they're really 100% reliant on platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Google to actually run ads. And because of that fact, there's all these online tools available to e-commerce operators like Pixels and Cookies that really allow them to see the full buyer's journey when they're going about their marketing. So to give you an example of that, let's say an e-commerce business wants to run a Facebook ad campaign. It's very easy for them to determine, who's actually clicking on their ads, then who's landing on their web pages, and then if they ultimately make a purchase on their website. In the marketing world, we refer to that as a conversion. But now, when you get into the offline world, where it's safe to assume everybody on this call is selling to brick and mortar, merchants, essentially what's happening is what this graph here is, indicative of is, they're kind of getting lost in that buyer's journey in the sense that, they can put out ads all day long, but if we don't know who's actually, coming full circle into the business to make a purchase, then it really puts your retail merchants at a disadvantage because they can't, start to understand those key business metrics like what it actually costs us to acquire a customer. And if you don't know your cost to acquire a customer, then you don't know how to budget your business for marketing, and it's really not putting you in a position to scale your business. So we really set out to solve that problem with Adszy. And as we were kind of going through the research and development to build this product, we noticed some really big changes happening in the social media marketing landscape. So for those on the call that don't know this, Facebook actually owns Instagram. And this graph that you're looking at here is showing basically what we call the organic decline over the last several years. So just to give you guys a quick overview, anytime a business is posting on their Facebook business page and they're not paying for that post, it's considered an organic post. So the amount of people they reach with that non-paid post is actually what we call your organic reach. Now, on the flip side, when you're actually paying for an advertisement, the amount of people you're reaching with that paid ad is what we call your paid reach. And basically what companies like Facebook have been doing over the last several years is they've been making changes to their algorithm that's really affecting all of our merchants. So if you look back in 2012, Facebook's algorithm was really set up to where if your business owners, put out a post on their Facebook business page organically or non-paid, and they had 1,000 followers on that page, Facebook would allow about 170 people or 17% to actually view that non-paid post. So back in the day, they might get someone that saw the post and then came in to make a purchase. It still wasn't trackable at all, but they had some sort of free means of social advertising. But as we fast forward into 2019, Facebook's actually diminished that algorithm down to about 1%. So if they have that same 1,000 followers on their business page, only about 10 people are actually seeing those organic posts. So really, the really very important takeaway today is your merchants really need to have a paid social media advertising strategy if they want to actually acquire people from social media. Now, in light of kind of bad news, if you will, there's good news. So when we actually were developing this product, we started looking at, all these different mediums to actually market a brick and mortar retailer. And if you actually kind of peel back the layers of the onion and think about marketing as a whole, what is marketing? It's getting your brand in front of people who are potentials to buy from you. So when we start looking at, some of these older mediums to market a business, like the newspaper, it's actually costs on average $32 to reach 1,000 people. And the reason being is you have to, print the newspaper and then you have to distribute it, which is really expensive. So as you get down to like these social media platforms, you'll notice that, the cost benefits of using social media far outweigh a lot of those legacy mediums, just because it's a lot cheaper to reach 1,000 people on average. But perhaps even the bigger benefit with social media marketing is if everybody on the call today, kind of thinks back to the first time that you signed up for like Facebook or Instagram, think about what you actually did. You gave them either an email or a phone number and a password. And at Adszy, we actually call those unique identifiers because no two people can ever have the same email or phone number. And we're actually using those mechanisms as a means to track whether or not people saw our ads prior to coming into a business and making a purchase. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I show you the live product here in a minute. But also, I want to just kind of talk about real briefly, how social media platforms actually operate. Basically, from day one, when you sign up for these platforms, they're tracking everything that you do. So to give you an example, let's say you go out to dinner with your spouse and you post about your anniversary. Facebook's going to document that and say, aha, we now know John Smith's anniversary is on this week of this month. And they can use that information for advertising purposes. So what Adszy is actually doing is we've integrated to, various different point of sale systems, obviously Poynt being one of them. And then we're aggregating data from payment networks. And then we've integrated to both Facebook and Instagram to where we can actually, aggregate all this data into the Adszy portal. So I'm going to, change gears here and show you guys the live portal. And basically what we can do is we can set your customers up for success. Because what we're finding is most, merchants prior to Adszy, like 9 out of 10 of them are actually active on social media, but they're usually just putting out organic posts every day because they don't really understand how ineffective that really is from a marketing standpoint. So when we get, onboard accounts with Adszy, we'll actually take them through a process to where we'll actually set up an ad account for them. So when you click on this authorization here, we'll select an ad account. We'll actually set up, their Facebook business page. And then from there, we're actually setting up what we call an offline event set. And this is basically our two-way exchange of, data with Facebook. In addition to that, we're actually going to set up your merchant with what we call a Facebook pixel. So for those of you unfamiliar with a Facebook pixel, it's a relatively simple concept. It's basically a piece of code that Facebook will generate that you can install on your website. And what it does is it'll actually track anybody that's clicking on our online ad and then landing on our website. It's going to track them through pixels and IP addresses so that we can serve them future ads. Because most people, in order for them to take action, they need to see your ads on average over 10 times. So this is just part of our onboarding process. And then, of course, they're going to have to authorize their Poynt Smart Terminal. So they would click the authorization button. They just put in their email and password for Poynt. And then from there, all of this data is actually going to start flowing into the Adszy portal. So if I go ahead and filter by like .com, for example, you're going to see everybody that's actually checked out on that Poynt device and opted for an email receipt. So you can actually click into any one of these records. Just like Poynt, it's going to show you how much they spent, the date and time that they were there. If they're putting their catalog into Poynt, it's going to track what they purchased, through Poynt. But really the whole point here is we're giving you a lot of different means in which you can actually segment your customers for marketing. So for example, let's say maybe a jewelry store, gets in a high line of, like a really high-end line of jewelry, and they want to market back to their most valuable customers. Well, they could literally just type in $5,000, hit enter, and now boom, you have a list of your most valuable customers. And the reason that we're doing that is so that we can really take a hyper-personalized approach to our marketing. Now, another example would be, let's say that same, jewelry store wants to filter by anyone that's given them an email, but then also shopped over the previous holiday season. We make it incredibly easy to just filter your database with the click of a button. But for the sake of the demo today, I'm going to show you how easy it is for us to actually export anyone that's ever transacted with our business so that we can serve them future ads. So as you see, I hit the export button. I can drop that on my desktop. Now watch how easy it is for me to actually launch a highly targeted ad campaign that's actually going to retarget anybody that's ever transacted with my business and opted for an email receipt. So I'm going to click on marketing, create campaign, and it's just 3 steps here. So for the merchant, they're just going to name the actual campaign name. So we're going to do Boomtown Demo, select from the drop-down engagement, click create campaign. And now I can actually drop that exported list of customers right back into the software to serve them ads. So I'm just going to pick where I actually got that customer data from, in this case directly from customers because it was from Poynt. You can also use third-party files here. So if you have a merchant that has a list of MailChimp emails, they can actually import those right into the software to serve those people ads across both Facebook and Instagram. So now I'm going to name this audience Boomtown Demo. We'll just copy and paste that for the description. And now when I click save, what you're going to see here is this is our new audience. So whatever ad that we put out is going to actually retarget anybody again that's ever transacted with our business and opted for an email receipt. But now within this same ad set, I'm going to show you how easy we've made it for your customers to actually seek out new customers. So here they're going to put in a budget, and this actually gets billed directly from Facebook. So Adsy's not, skimming off the top of their ad spend. This gets billed directly by Facebook. And I'm going to put in a budget for just like, $150 over the next, let's say 1 month. So we'll do the 23rd to the 23rd. And then from here, we can actually target people based off of different demographics. So let's say I'm a jewelry store and I want to target people ages 25 to 65 who are both female and male who live in the Florida area. So now I can select Florida and watch what happens. You're going to see now we have 1.3 million people ages 25 to 65 in Florida. We're going to go after people that speak English. And then you'll see that it'll move slightly. And then finally, let's say the jewelry store wants to target people with an upcoming anniversary, like I had mentioned early on in the presentation here. We can literally target people who have an anniversary in the next 31 to 60 days who live in Florida, ages 25 to 65. So now when I click on that, you're going to see we have 58,000 people. So this is a really, targeted list of people that we can serve our ads to. And this is really powerful because if you start having the marketing conversations with your merchants, you're going to realize that a lot of them are doing, like, for example, radio ad campaigns. I'll give you a really quick example. We just had a restaurant here in St. Louis that was a vegan restaurant that just opened up. And they actually did a radio campaign to announce their opening. And I just thought to myself, that's kind of a crazy way to go about your marketing, because if I had to guess, about 95% of the general public are not vegans. So they're probably wasting a ton of money on people who don't care that they're opening a vegan restaurant. So with us, we can really make this product widespread and kind of appeal to a various different mixture of merchants. Like, for example, let's say maybe you have a pet store that you want to go after. You could actually target people who have, interest in PetSmart, or maybe they own a veterinarian practice. So now when they run their ads, anyone with an interest in PetSmart, odds are they probably have a pet. So there's a number of different ways we can actually target people. And then from there, we can go ahead and create our ad set. And it's as simple as dropping a file into the software. So I believe I actually have a restaurant authorized right now. So we're just going to, put in some text here. So join us during happy hour. And then we'll go ahead and put in a website URL. And then we can actually put in a call to action. And from there, step 1, 2, and 3, what we're actually doing is we're retargeting all of our existing customers so that we can help these merchants to increase their overall customer frequency. We can actually go after new customers as well. And some of the benefits of Adszy is this is not just going to go out on Facebook. It's going to go out on Instagram stories. It's going to go out on the Instagram newsfeed, all with just a few steps. So as part of our onboarding, we can train your merchants to go through, step 1, 2, and 3 in a matter of, usually 60 minutes, to where before they're usually just posting organically, they're not reaching a lot of people, to where we can really get them to have a professional, almost enterprise level marketing strategy. And the best part about our program is it's really the world's first 100% trackable social media marketing platform, in the sense that we're not going to just show them the generic, social advertising metrics like reach and impressions and clicks. We're actually going to show them customer acquisition costs. Here's the amount of money it costs you to acquire a customer through this ad campaign. Customers converted. This is the number of people who viewed your ads and then made an in-store purchase within the last 28 days. And then because we have the transactional data, we can show them down to the penny, here is the amount of money customers actually spent at your business after viewing your ads and then making in-store purchases. And then we kind of give them like a bird's eye view. Sorry, go ahead.
Just real quick, I just want to say, guys, if you have questions, feel free to submit them on the questions, and I'll read them out to John. One thing that, I know a lot of you might already have a lot of exposure or education around how, online to offline marketing works. I didn't have a lot of education when I first got into the industry. Luckily, it evolved over time. So if anything, if this strikes interest and you have some questions, definitely write in, and so we can get those questions over to John.
Yeah, and I might be able to provide some clarity too. Like, for the folks that just flat out are not familiar with like digital advertising, again, I had mentioned early on that, when you sign up for these platforms, you use an email or phone number. So when we can get, the customers to check out on the Poynt device and opt for an email or phone number receipt, and a lot of our merchants are actually, customizing the display to say go green or whatever, or they're turning off their paper receipt altogether. And what's happening is when they actually check out, we're taking a packet of data. So think about the customer's first and last name from the credit card, the date and time they were there, how much they spent, what they actually purchased. And then if they opt for that email receipt, we're actually encrypting that data and we're sending it to Facebook and we're saying, hey, Facebook, can you scan your database and tell us whether or not this person saw our ad within the last 28 days prior to making that purchase. So that way now, for the first time ever, we can report back to the merchant down to the penny their true, return on investment for social media marketing.
John, how would
So
you
hopefully
tell
that
this to a
provides-
merchant? I would probably say to my merchant, hey, we have, with our Poynt terminal, we have options for digital marketing, online marketing, marketing through social media. And then if I got someone interested, what would be the next step? Would I get your team involved? Would you guys help me pitch to the merchant?
Yeah.
What's kind of the next step? Because I know a lot of people might be intimidated by, speaking beyond just the introduction of the product. So I just want to understand kind of what the next steps are, there.
Yeah, that's a great question. And really what we're finding is the most successful resellers are actually letting our internal team pitch the product for them, at least until they're comfortable doing it themselves, because there is a little bit of education behind it. But, it's really a different approach than what a lot of the other industry or folks in the industry are doing, because we know everybody in the industry is calling on like credit card processing. And these merchants are getting those calls, 20 times a week. And at the end of the day, I think the industry has kind of led us all to believe that merchants are sitting around thinking about, how can I save money for my business all the time? But in reality, that's not at all what they're thinking about. They're actually thinking the same way as everybody on this call. How can I grow my business? How can I get new customers? How can I make more money? And what we're finding is this is a big pain point for these merchants because they really don't have any trackable marketing. If they're doing radio campaigns, how do you track that? You have no idea who's on the other end. So all these legacy mediums really don't have any means to track it. And everybody's on social media these days, but they don't know if it's actually working. So, really what we tell our resellers is just book the demo, get that initial contact, get them interested, and then let our team run through the demo. And we're pretty effective at selling the product. And instead of calling on credit card processing and saying, hey, Mr. Merchant, we can shave pennies off your payment processing, we're actually calling on that jewelry store and we're saying, hey, Mr. Merchant, this is John. I'm calling on behalf of Adszy. We're a tech company. And we were just crunching data. And we noticed there's 2,000 people in your zip code with an anniversary in the next 30 to 60 days. Can we drop by and show you exactly how we can put your brand in front of them? Oh, and by the way, it's 100% trackable. So really our resellers, when they're taking that approach, they're getting through more doors than ever. And it's really helping them to secure the payment accounts as well.
No, that's great. I think it's a really good intro, like you said, to a conversation, and that you're absolutely right. While everybody loves to save money, it's not what they're thinking about every day. That they're actually thinking about how to make more money. That's typically top of mind. So having that approach when you're entering a sale is going to be super, super helpful as well.
Yeah, and
do you have any verticals that have worked well, John? Like verticals that have worked well, or if I want to get started and I want to start pitching this, is it retail first, food and beverage, veterinarians, health and beauty? What's kind of like a good starting point?
Yeah, it's really very widespread. Like a lot of quick service restaurants are great with Poynt. But we have like automotive shops, boutiques, jewelry stores. Really the way that we go about prospecting internally is we actually want to find businesses that are active on social media, because literally, 9 out of 10 merchants that we sign up are already posting on social media every day. They're just not running targeted ads. Like they don't have a paid strategy, and obviously it's not trackable. So we actually use tools like the Facebook Pixel Helper to where if I click on my website here, you can see like I have a pixel on here. So that's again going to track, anybody that, lands on my website, we can reserve them future ads. So this is a free download. So a lot of our resellers are, downloading this extension for Google Chrome, and then they're trying to find businesses that are active, but they don't have a pixel because it's indicative that they don't have a professional strategy in place. So we can kind of use that as an excuse to reach out to them. But yeah, again, to answer your question, I mean, it's really, really widespread. As we're integrating to new devices, we're really moving into a lot of like full service restaurants, but that's a little premature today. And
how
one
would
other
you
thing,
market these services? What are some things like, if I was asking for marketing tips on how do I go and kind of broadcast this to my prospects or my existing base of merchants, were there some easy ways to get conversion and market these services?
Yeah, like as far as marketing Adzy or talking to them about marketing their own business.
I think both. I think how would you market this program and the service to the merchants, and then how would you kind of, once you got their attention, how would you sell it to them?
Yeah, so for a lot of our resellers, like we'll give them a test account to where they can actually just go into the Adzy portal and they can make it specific to like their region. So like they can actually put in an age range, and then they can put in their city, English, and then they can start, actually pulling real data. So like if they want to go after, for example, a daycare, they can start targeting, parents with children, specific ages. So now you can actually call in that daycare and say, hey, we are actually just crunching data. I noticed you guys have programs for, children ages, whatever. And say, it looks like there's actually 2,000 people in your zip code who have, children that age. Don't you think it'd be beneficial to put your ads in front of them? Like, how are you actually reaching those people today? And that's what we're finding is they're doing radio. They're wasting money on people that don't have children. So we're really able to maximize their dollars when it comes to the marketing by taking that really targeted approach. And again, it's 100% trackable. So it's kind of twofold. Like you can use this not only to market Adzy to your merchants because it's kind of music to their ears. Nobody's calling them and, talking about specific, people in their zip code and, things that are really specific to their business. But in addition, once you get that meeting, when you show them this, you kind of see their eyes, start to light up because they're like, wow, this would really solve a lot of problems for me because today I have no clue what it costs me to acquire a customer. So when we can kind of, introduce Adzy and introduce, really putting a sustainable, marketing platform in place, it's going to really help them to grow their business.
And so what does it cost to kind of get started or do a test campaign, maybe a pilot campaign? What would be kind of a cost for, this is obviously a great way you're showing us right now to prove the value really quickly to someone that you've already gotten the attention of. But what's kind of the cost you would think for a pilot campaign or, getting them started so they feel comfortable?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's our different price structures we have. This Elite is actually in beta because we're actually adding email marketing, which is going to be trackable. That's on our product roadmap. But today, the 149 is the most common package. And really, if you compare that to any other marketing platform, that's incredibly affordable. Because if you go hire an ad agency, they're going to want $10,000 and they're not going to be able to track anything because without emails, there's really no way to track any digital marketing. And because we're plugged into the payment networks and point of sale networks, we can obviously track that. So 149 is very common, but Joey, here's the approach that we're actually taking that we're finding is incredibly effective is instead of going in with the typical kind of rate slinger approach that the industry is taking, where, the whole idea is we're going to save you money. So here's an example of what most of our reps are doing prior to Adzy is they're going into a merchant and they're saying, okay, Mr. Merchant, you're at XYZ pricing today, and we're going to reduce your rates by $120 a month. And that's actually going to save you, $1,440 a year. But essentially what they're actually doing is they're just pulling, $1,400 out of the pie of their own margin. And that's not helping anybody selling credit card processing. So what we're doing is we're taking the Adzy approach and we're going in and we're saying, okay, Mr. Merchant, it looks like you have pretty good rates today, but the problem is you still have a 2 to 3% sunk cost every month, which is your credit card processing. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to reallocate the funds that you're already spending or the money you're already spending on credit card processing. We're going to unlock the data flowing through your business so that you can have trackable marketing. So instead of doing a percentage markup, a lot of our ISOs and a lot of our agents are going in and they're essentially just matching their rates. And then we actually offer a $20 per month hardware program for both agents and ISOs to where in this example, they're able to, board this merchant with only saving $8 that they're pulling out of their own margin. So now both the ISO and the agent's making more money because they don't have to cut their margin and they're giving the customer something of value. And really,
that's cool that you got creative. It's a cool way to get creative with it, and so you don't have to go, have a race to the bottom on pricing. You can basically just say we're going to match the pricing, but obviously we're going to now build an ROI for your business using this terminal that you have already paid for, right? I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we've really learned is over time. Again, the industry's taught us to sell on price, but when you go in and you start talking about, trackable marketing and ways to grow their business, they don't even care about price anymore because they're more fixated on actually getting new customers. So when you show them, hey, you're already paying for this today, let's just reallocate those funds, then everybody wins because the ISO, the agent makes more money, and the merchant has trackable market. So it works really beautifully.
And we're coming up to the end of the hour here. Is there any other questions people have, or anything else, or you want to share with us, John, before we kind of close out the webinar for today? And again, we're going to have the webinar at 2 p.m. and we'll send this deck out, recording out after the 2 p.m. Basically presentation.
Yeah, I think I basically covered all the bases. If anyone has additional questions, they can just email support@adszy.com. And we can go through this with them again. We have a bunch of different resources. If anyone wants to join the partner program, we can walk them through those steps as well.
Okay, perfect. Let me so John will be with me again at 2 p.m. and we'll make sure that everybody gets a recording of this deck. You guys have everything that you need. I'm going to take the presenter rollover real quickly, but again, feel free to email me questions too if you have any questions right away or something that you want to get from the presentation right away. But give me 1 second. Show my screen here. Some resources for you guys. Again, I'm Joey at Go Boomtown. Success at Go Boomtown, our sales at Go Boomtown will also work. And then I'll also have our sales hub and our knowledge base with all this information. So feel free to reach out. Thanks everybody for joining, and sorry for the audio issue in the beginning today, but appreciate everybody's attendance, and we will talk with you all soon. Thanks so much. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.